going on, everybody? Joseph Hadid here for Worldwide Sport Updates, your podcast, your news, your local community. Good morning, sports family. Thank you for tuning in to Worldwide Sport Updates, your podcast, your sports, your news, your local community. This is Joseph Hadid, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing? It is Friday, August 8th, 2025. TGIF and DD. Ready for this upcoming weekend as we close out another work week in the books. And we have a lot to cover for you on what transpired in sports this past week. And we're going to go over them with you because that's what we are all about. Yes, that is what we are all about, ladies and gentlemen. Worldwide Sport Updates is committed and dedicated to delivering everything when it comes to the NFL, to the NHL, to the NBA, to the MLB, to the WNBA, to the NCAA men's and women's college basketball, and college football. You know, we have everything for you. And MLS, if I didn't mention MLS, Major League Soccer, that is. We have everything for you, folks. We are always here, committed, dedicated, to giving everything you need to know. All right, let's go over on what transpired in sports this past week. We're going to start off with some NBA news. Luka Dončić signs a 3-year max extension with the Los Angeles Lakers this past week, actually, on August 2nd, 2025. Let's break it down. Luka Dončić and the Los Angeles Lakers agreed to a 3-year, $165 million maximum extension on Saturday, August 2nd. The move did not come out of nowhere. It formalizes what the league has been expecting ever since the Lakers acquired Dončić during the season, and then built their summer around him. Still, getting the commitment in ink matters for everything the Lakers want to be over the next 3 seasons. A team with a generational shot creator in his prime, a flexible cap sheet beyond 2026 and 2027 season, and a recruiting magnet for veteran role players chasing meaningful minutes in the month of May and June. That means trying to get to the NBA Finals. That's their main focus as a franchise. But here's the thing. The structure isn't interesting as the headline. Yeah, it's pretty interesting as the headline says it. Because the supermax rules don't apply to players who change teams after their rookie deals. Dončić's extension starts at 30% of the cap, rather than the 35% he could have claimed had he remained with his prior team. It is still massive money, but it also positions him for an even bigger payday down the road. Likely when he hits the 10-year service mark and can jump back to the 35% band. ESPN's cap analysis framed it as a classic bridge. Enough security for Dončić now, and a runway to maximize earnings later once the league cap numbers excellate with his service time that unlocks a higher tier. From the Lakers' point of view, the extension de-risks the most important variable, whether Dončić might want to test free agency in 2026. With that spectator gone, Los Angeles could make decisions on the rest of the roster without trying to trend the needle between keeping powder dry and competing in the present. The front office has already started shaping the rotation around Dončić's strengths. High usage on ball creation, pick and roll volume, and his preference for playing with vertical spacing and reliable catch and shoot threats. Shorter value consets deals for wings and big man that make more sense when the top of the roster is nailed down. And the Lakers' recent activity reflects that logic. What this really means is Los Angeles now has a clarity on both timeline and identity. Dončić's game scales. He can carry a top 5 offense with minimal help. And he's shown he can elevate complementary scores. Complementary scores who understand when to cut, screen, and stay out of the way. The open question sits on the defensive end, and in late series adjustments against elite switching groups, the Lakers' ability to surround him with rangy stoppers who can keep the floor spaced will determine whether this becomes an era of deep runs or one of the frustrated second round exits. The cap flexibility mentioned in reporting matters here, aside from LeBron James' option and a couple of mid-tier contracts, Los Angeles has left itself room to pivot as matchups demand. Zooming out to the league-wide impact, a prime Dončić teetered to a glamour franchise that shapes the West's balance of power. It measures rivals to keep up in star equity and to plan their own cap tables around a Lakers core that for now is locked. It also cools the 2026 free agency market, one less megastar potentially hitting the open market that tends to depress the number of desperate overpays and increases that trade activity. And increases the trade activity. So it depresses the number of desperate overpays and increases the trade activity as teams seek alternative pathways to talent. That's where I was trying to get that. I was just trying to clarify that for you folks. That that's pretty much what the Lakers are trying to focus on, becoming a championship team again. And they're trying to bring in so much talent around not only LeBron James, but Luka Dončić as well. So they want to get back to that, again, championship caliber team that they were when they won the NBA Finals back in during COVID years, that is. So hopefully they go in the right direction. All right, let's shift over to some NHL hockey news. NHL EA Sports announces the NHL 26 Deluxe cover featuring the Dončić family feature that is set to reveal August 6, 2025. I think the game did get revealed this past week, according to reports. All right, let's go right into it and break it down. The splashiest hockey headline this week actually comes from the gaming world, and it has real marketing ripples for the league. EA Sports revealed that the deluxe edition of NHL 26, the video game, will feature Matthew and Brady Dončić alongside their father Keith on the cover. It is a clever nod to hockey. Hockey's dynastic DNA, that is. 2 current All-Stars and a 500-goal power forward from a previous era packaged as a family storyline that pretty much is easy to promote. Well, yeah, that is actually easy to promote across social channels and national broadcasts. The standard editions keep Matthew as the solo cover athlete, which makes sense given his recent cup pedigree. But the cover is the only front door. EA highlighted a handful of under-the-hood updates that are likely to matter to the core fan base and indirectly to the NHL's border engagement metrics. The headline feature is interrogation of Ice Q 2.0, gameplay layer powered by the league's NHL's edge tracking data. In practical terms, that means the game is leaning on real-world positional data skating speeds, shot profiles, and signature tendencies to tune how stars feel in the moment. If done well, it narrows the gap between watching a player and controlling him. And that tactical link can be potent for the brand affinity. Think of a Panthers fan noticing the Matthew Tushik's board work and inside shoulder angles that translate into recoverable pucks and drawn penalties in game. That's the sort of feedback that looms the league as wanted from its data investment. NHL 26 also promises a sizable refresh to be a pro, billed as the biggest since NHL 21. The career mode now plots a more continuous path: World Juniors moments, draft dynamics, minor league development, NHL milestones, so the player story doesn't feel like jump cuts from one level to the next. There is also a goalie freeze control system meant to make the toughest position in the sport less like guesswork and more like reading a rush. On the team building side, HUT gets a new seasonal structure with ranked play and an offline lane that dials down that time pressure, a small but meaningful acknowledgement that not every hockey fan wants to grind meta sets each week. Release cadence matters for planning community activations. EA, ladies and gentlemen, EA Sports set September 12th as the launch date with a September 5 10-hour trial for EA Play members and up to 7 days early access for the deluxe pre-orders. That timing drops the game with the heart of the NHL's preseason storylines and gives clubs a window to pair local marketing such as rookie camps, fan fests, with creator contact around the new mechanics. Expect the Panthers and the Senators to lean in the hardest given the Tushik angle, but the family cover is broad enough to work in natural markets. What this really means, the NHL keeps using its video game partner to showcase its data strategy and to build star stories that are not purely team locked. If the Ice Q 2.0 and Edge interrogations land, you will see more clips of side-by-side real shifts versus in-game sequences circulating on team accounts. That is earned promotion the league does not have to buy. Just to clarify that. So the NHL video game comes out on September 12th, with September 5 being the 10-hour trial, and also you get a 7-day early access before September 12th, that is. So, pretty awesome stuff. Alright, I'll let you shift over to some NFL news here. National Football League. Alright, ESPN and the NFL non-binding agreement. The NFL takes 10% stake in ESPN. ESPN to manage NFL Network and the Red Zone. Yeah, so that's what just transpired this past week. Let's break it down for you folks. This is the biggest media rights shakeup in pro football since the last round of broadcast contracts. The NFL and Disney's ESPN announced a non-binding agreement under which the league would receive a 10% equity stake in ESPN, while ESPN assumes operational control of the NFL Network and Red Zone and folds them into its direct-to-consumer bundle. The move still requires a ticket of approvals, federal antitrust review, and final contract terms, and a vote of NFL club owners, so nothing changes for viewers overnight. But the direction of travel is clear. A tighter ESPN, the NFL alignment, with more games and more product features sitting inside a single subscription. So it does feature a single inside with a single subscription, which is pretty awesome. So let's break it down for you. Let's give you more information of what that is all about. First, distribution. ESPN has already announced an August 21 launch for its A La Carte streaming service. That's $29.99 a month. And under this framework, NFL Network and Red Zone would be available inside that product. The linear channels do not evaporate. ESPN will still distribute Red Zone to cable partners, but the gravity shifts towards the app, where ESPN could bundle fantasy, live look-ins, and expanded shoulder contact around the game windows it already controls. Washington's Post reporting notes that ESPN total number of NFL windows climbs to 28 annually, with NFL retaining some digital rights and owning the channels themselves. Second, governance and journalism concerns. Anytime a league takes an equity stake in a network that covers it, people worry about conflicts of interest. Those questions surfaced immediately. Pundits asked whether a partial owner could still report hard stories about the league. ESPN's public response has been to the point that its investigative track. Well, they're investigating the track record and to insist on editorial firewalls. That debate won resolved today. Actually, the debate won't be resolved today. Excuse me, sorry about that. But it will shape how fans receive the product when tough stories land. The third regulation, runners and others flagged likely DOJ scrutiny of the deal's competitive effects. Merging distribution of league-owned channels under ESPN's DTC umbrella could reduce consumers' choice if not carefully structured, especially if rival bundles lose access or if pricing creeps up. On the other hand, a unified login that layers Red Zone, fantasy, and studio coverage onto nationally televised games is exactly what a slice of the audience has been asking for. Expect a long regulatory runway that estimates point to late 2026 at the earliest for a full close, even as ESPN begins marketing the integrated vision now. Finally, why it matters on the field and in your Sunday routine. A lot of people are asking that. Or many of you probably are asking that. Well, yeah, I did say a lot. Some of you might be asking that. A lot of you are asking that, but some of you may be asking that. Some of you probably don't care. A denser ESPN footprint means more consistent production values, a cleaner streaming path, and fewer whiplash moments hopping between apps. It could also juice advertising yields and sponsorship packages, which, given how the salary cap is teetered to league revenues, flows back into football economics. Owners do not vote for abstractions. They vote for dollars, and the dollars here look meaningful if the DOJ signs off. Excuse me. All right, let's shift over to some Major League Baseball news. Here we go. Let's cover what's breaking down in MLB. Speedway Classic draws a record crowd despite the rain delay, and tops Saturday's TV despite being rained on. The game resumed on Sunday, the next day that is. That's what was reported this past week in sports. You all remember the Speedway Classic game, right? Between the Reds and the Braves. The Cincinnati Reds and Atlanta Braves. Well, yeah, that game was rained out, but then they resumed it on Sunday, and it worked out, and they brought a record crowd. Let's break it down, though. Major League Baseball's stadium experiments do not always land, but when they do, they create a spectacular that cuts through a crowded summer calendar. Case in point, the 2025 MLB Speedway Classic at Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee, excuse me, which drew a regular season record crowd of 91,032 and still managed to win Saturday night and TV viewership despite a weather gut punch. Rain halted play in the bottom of the first inning on August 2nd, forcing Fox into a long delay window. Even so, the network averaged 1.78 million viewers during that prime delay block and peaked at 2.4 million between 9:42 p.m. and 10:32 p.m. window. Pure Associated Press reporting on Tuesday, August 5th. The game resumed on Sunday with Atlanta beating Cincinnati 4-2 to finish the two-day set. Across the full weekend, that broadcast averaged 1.6 million viewers. Now, you all might ask, why does it matter? Well, here's why it matters. Baseball has spent the last few seasons trying to make special events feel, well, special, with the Winter Classics on ice are the model, but the league has tinkered with unique venues, from cornfields to surface academies, to create postcard moments that sell beyond the core market. A racetrack church ballpark is the kind of novelty that can pull in the casually curious viewer and give brand partners something they cannot get from a standard Tuesday at a mid-market, at a mid-market park. The attendance figure, again, a record for a regular season MLB game, gives the league cover to keep experimenting. So operationally, the rain is a useful stress test. When you plan a one-off in a unconventional venue, inclement weather is always the monster under the bed. This weekend showed that, well, this past weekend, showed that the production plan had enough redundancy to hold audience attention during the delay, and that the league's reception protocols could wrap the event without draining all the buzz. The split day result won't be idle for on-site fans who traveled for a single day experience, but the ratings suggest that the national audience stayed with it, which ultimately is what advertisers care about. So, from a baseball perspective, the matchup mattered. An Atlanta club with star power against a Cincinnati team with young heat. That is exactly the kind of pairing that works on network TV. Again, the final score, the 4-2 victory, won't live forever, but the images will. The memories, of course. Dugouts set against steep grandstands, cameras catching arcs of foul balls against a backyard fans have not seen before. MLB has been hungry for shareable visuals since it accelerated rule change back in the year 2023. And the Speedway Classic delivered them even with the weather throwing a curveball. So in other words, Major League Baseball had a great approach and a great plan on how to keep the Speedway Classic from being ruined and from viewership, from losing fans and losing viewership ratings. They had the right approach, they had the right plan, they had the right idea, and everything was going in the right direction. as they expected. So, kudos to MLB on this approach. In other words, there was no loss. It was all a win-win for them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for this week. Take care of each other, sports family. Take care of each other, YouTube family. And look out for each other. Stay blessed. Have yourself a great weekend. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, we will talk next Friday's recorded podcast. Have yourself a great one. And enjoy the weekend, of course. Whatever you have plans, whatever you may be doing. And, enjoy what the rest of the summer has to offer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Worldwide Sport Updates, your podcast that supports your news, your local community, your host, Joe Signing off.